Hello everyone, welcome to Desert Succulent. Today we're gonna be featuring our Crested Moonstone, and it's one of those succulents that is very unique looking because of its appearance, and in front of you is a classic example of what a Crested Moonstone would look like. In order for us to better understand kung ano nga ba ang Crested na Moonstone, it means na nagkaroon ng mutation yung ating succulent, and this happens if something has affected yung kanyang single growing point or yung kanyang growth center of the plant. What really happens is that yung ating stem na supposed to be like this is nagiging flattened, nagiging ganito siya, and after, it will now be sprouting new growth on the top of the stem, creating now a bunching effect na ganito instead of the leaves growing dito sa sides nung kanyang stem. And here is a classic example. This ones, ito, this, and this. So we have 4 moonstones here na they are just growing normally. Ganito ang kanilang itsura. From the top, it would look like this. And if you're gonna be comparing it to this crested na moonstone, wala naman masyadong pinagkaiba, diba? But if we're gonna be doing this angle, you would really notice the difference nung kanilang stems. Ayan, so this is yung ating ordinary na moonstone, and this is how a crested moonstone would look like. And it doesn't mean na crested yung ating pinaka-mother succulent. It means na magproduce siya ng mga offsets na crested din. So, hindi ganun yun. As I've mentioned earlier, since nagkaroon nga tayo ng mutation, nagkakaroon tayo ng ating cresting. I also have here another example. Ayan, so this one is cresting. Pero here, yung kanyang offsets, hindi siya nag-crest. I also have here one of my perfectly shaped na crested moonstone. If we're gonna be looking at the details, para siyang mermaid tail. So it's very narrow here, and as it goes outward, naging parang fan shape yung kanyang itsura. So this is the front view, and from the back, it would look like this. Now that we have fully understand kung ano nga bang ibig sabihin ng ating crested moonstones, we can now talk about yung kanyang temperature and light requirements. Most of the time, it's best if we will be growing it outdoors kasi they prefer sunny spot. Nakalagay lang sila sa isang open area, sa ating rain or shine area, wherein they are really exposed to the elements. I have also noticed that if we keep on exposing them to the sun, they will be giving us a yellowish color sa kanilang pinaka-leaves. Normally kasi parang ganito lang siya, greenish, but in time, if talagang na-stress siya because of the sun, it will be giving you this kind of color. Nagiging yellow siya. It's not really an indication na mushy yung kanilang leaves, but it's really one of their way to show that they are already stressed. And this is something that is really fun to look at, especially nga pag completely na yung kanyang leaves will be stressed. Up close, yung kanilang leaves are also coated with farina, and this coating now would now give them a protection against the sun. But even if that they have this kind of coating, still we need to consider na pag masyadong mainit yung araw, we have to move our crested moonstone in a shaded area for us to avoid yung kanilang burns. Watering them is also very basic. We have to remember na itong ating crested moonstones, they store water in their thick leaves, sa kanilang stems, or even sa kanilang roots. And therefore, they are really adapted to this kind of parang dry environment, and as much as possible, that is something that we need to mimic or gayahin. We have to water this succulents pag nag-completely dry na nga yung kanilang mga soil. But right now, since it's already the rainy season, talagang continuously every day nauulanan na nga yung ating mga succulents, and that explains why basang-basa yung ating mga succulents right now. But still, I'm really trying to check for signs of overwatering, such as yung mushy leaves, but I haven't find any leaf na naging mushy or na overwater as of the moment. It helps if ilalagay nga natin sila sa isang well-ventilated area kung saan yung ating airflow would be very nice to help na mabilis mag-dry yung mga water droplets na nandyan sa kanilang mga leaves and including sa kanilang soil. One of the best things about the crested moonstones is that they require nga yung minimal space, and they can easily thrive when planted in a pot such as these kind of containers kasi nga they stay relatively compact even for extended periods of time. Usually they can spread up to 12 inches wide depending now if we will be giving them yung kanilang right living conditions. I'm using yung ating typical loam soil again with some vermicompost in it, and so far okay naman yung growth nitong ating pinaka-mother crested moonstone. Propagating our Crested Moonstone is a bit tricky in terms of yung ating leaf propagations. It doesn't mean that if we're gonna be getting leaf propagation from this crested na plant, it means na magiging crested na din yung tutubo sa kanyang offsets. Hindi ganon yung ating reality. And on the other hand, it doesn't mean na hindi ito crested, is that hindi na siya mag-produce ng crested na offsets. Again, it's a kind of mutation and we really don't know which kind of leaf would be producing this kind of crested na succulent. So, for example here, yung ordinary natin na moonstone versus this one na crested. Ayan. If you will be having a side-by-side comparison, you cannot really tell which is which or kung saan sila nanggaling, diba? Their leaves look exactly the same and we don't know exactly if both could possibly produce a crested na succulent or none of them would produce a crested moonstone. So, depende na yan. If you wanted na yung inyong propagation would be successful na crested na talaga siya, the best way is through stem cuttings or ibibehead natin siya. Siyempre, hindi natin ibibehead yung mga ordinary na stems like this, but rather we will be beheading yung talagang nag-crest na mismo. So, for example, here, you have now another propagation ng inyong crested na moonstone, and that explains why I have a lot of crested moonstone sa pinakalikod. It's because I am doing this kind of propagation. And also, it's advisable na if you're gonna be doing your propagation, such as yung ating leaves or stem cuttings, dapat dry yung inyong mga succulents. Just excuse me na nagbehead ako today even if na completely basa pa yung ating mga succulents kasi all of them were fully soaked as of today. So we can just air dry this for a couple of days and you can plant it in any pot and soil mix that you wish. Lastly, your crested moonstone will also be producing offsets from time to time. Like here, ayan, napakadami niyong offsets doon, and at a very young age, talagang crested na sila. Makikita ninyo yung kanyang cresting doon, including this one. Ayan o, there's a tiny offset na tumubo from the ground. Hindi siya leaf propagation. Talagang from the ground siya tumubo. Judging by the shape ng kanyang leaves, mukhang crested itong tutubo na ito. So eventually in time, this entire pot will be filled with this crested moonstone. Further grooming and maintenance, all you need to do is remove nga itong ating mga dried na leaves na nakakapit sa kanyang pinaka-stem. It's very simple na tanggalin sila. Sometimes you don't need tweezers. Pwede nyo lang silang i-ganyan. Then they will eventually fall on their own. Ayan. You can also remove some of the unwanted na plants na literally tumutubo lang kung saan-saan. You can just simply remove them. You can also check for some pests. Usually, hindi sila makikita dito, but rather, makikita nyo sila in between sa leaves ng ating crested moonstone, and that is something that you need to watch out for every time na i-check nyo nga sila. For our fungal infections, you can always prevent that, diba? Sabi nga nila, prevention is always better than cure. So, I always apply yung ating broad spectrum na fungicide sa kanya every 3 to 4 months. They are not considered toxic, so if you have some kids or pets around you, then this kind of succulent would be safe enough for them. That's all for our crested moonstone. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You may also visit our Facebook page at Desert Succulent PH.